This is All Aware Podcast with Nathan Rashawn. Like, follow, and subscribe. Help spread awareness. www.allawarepodcast.com.
Hey, welcome to another episode of All Aware. I am your host, Nathan Rashawn, and on today's episode, I'm going to be bringing on a life coach, an author, and a business extraordinaire, Mark Collins. He's going to talk about how to discover and embrace your purpose in life, how to discover and have a more fulfilling and adventurous life. So do yourself a favor and do not miss this episode. I'm going to be right back here on All Aware. 1 minute. See you then.
From the corners of the internet to the wave signals transmitting through your brain, you are now sinking into All Aware. Preparing transmission signals. Stand by.
Silent scan.
Broadcasting off the grid in Central Texas. This is the All Aware Podcast.
Thank you.
Please stand by for your host, Nathan Rashawn.
And welcome back to another episode of All Aware. Mark Collins, a dedicated business life coach, father, and husband, is here with us today. He has a passion for empowering others and believes everyone is equipped to be the hero they have always wanted to be and were created to be. Mark is the author of a book, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default, and has developed a course on his website to help people live intentionally. Over the past 15 years, Mark has mentored hundreds, witnessing transformative changes and inspiring spiritual callings to be recognized or unleashed. So I want to go ahead and bring him on now. He's here. So Mark, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Nathan. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to me and the audience here. I think what you have going on is very amazing, and it's something we definitely need at this time, especially now and the world with everything going on. So can you just kind of give a little kind of a brief background about how did you get into life coaching? I know you're a Christian. I believe you run sort of like a type of ministry. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, pastor, coach, mentor, I do all those things. And great question involved with how did I get started? Really, it wasn't something I got started in coaching others, but really in trying to find the resources and tools for myself. Growing up, in the environment that I did, and we could unpack that if you'd like, but what it led to was a young man who felt like he had more on the inside than he was seeing on the outside. The person that I wanted to be on the inside versus who I was seeing show up in my business or work and my relationships and in my life. And so for me, it was really trying to unpack and figure out how to get that guy out, right? The one who had confidence, who had assurance, who was bold in whatever his business decisions and relationship and all of those things that you desire to have. And so for me, it started with personal development and really trying to find those things that would allow me to do it, the tools, the resources, those mantras, or whatever the things are that they have. And come to find out, at least in my experience, that a lot of those developmental courses are great at bringing change and habits to create change, but they don't bring transformation.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was walking into my Christian walk. I accepted Jesus at 27 and unpacking the Bible as instruction instead of just philosophy. And then over time, being able to figure out, what are those tools and strategies that I can use so that the man on the inside shows up on the outside. And, like with you, Nathan, I'm sure everybody that's listening, when you have something that you think is amazing or transformative, you want to share it with everybody you care about. And so for me, it started with that and sharing with people, in my local community and those I cared about. And then finding the same issues and challenges in a lot of people's lives, fear of failure, imposter syndrome, insecurity, things that you don't really tell people about, but they show up in ways in your actions and your words and your responses to life. And so I created this course called Life Mastery that I say is a blueprint from hurt to healed or bound to free. It really is a roadmap to get to that place of the person on the inside coming out, whether it's, having security or it's having confidence or the things that you desire to have in every area of your life. So Life Mastery, the book was written off of the course. I did it backwards probably, but I started with the course, developed it with a bunch of people. And then to be totally honest, Nathan, with the encouragement of my mom and my wife, who told me I should write a book, you write about what you know. And for me, it was Life Mastery. So I wrote the book, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, and published that over this past year. And I've seen some good traction with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, if, and I think what you're doing is great, because a lot of us, like specifically men, we think our lives are a lot different than others, and we see other guys doing this, or they have this company, or they have this particular lifestyle, and we think that that's something that's not achievable for everybody, or something that, well, I'm from this particular background or whatever, it's unlikely I can do that, and that's just
Right.
that's not true. So I did hear you say something about imposter syndrome. What is that? What is imposter syndrome?
That's a great question. Imposter syndrome is really believing that you're not qualified for what you're in the midst of, whether it's, a husband, being a father, whether it's in a relationship or really in business, right? Being able to walk into a job and feel like you're qualified for that next step, or you're promoted to supervisor, lead person, or manager over people, and feeling like, man, I'm not qualified for this. I can't do this job. Or in business ownership, really trying to strive and reach for that. And that's kind of where it, kind of reared its ugly head in my life, Nathan, was in um, being in business. And, when challenges and issues and struggles happen, sometimes you have this voice in your head saying, a voice of failure saying you're going to blow it, you're going to mess up. And part of that is the feeling that you're not qualified for where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely been there in my life. And I would say, it's kind of crazy, because, you think your fear, you think those types of feelings are there to protect you. And
Mm,
really, if you, and in a way they are, your ego is, but then when you jump into those things you're not familiar with, you actually have better results, and you see that,
yeah.
I don't know. That's just been my experience. How about you? Have you, when you've done things, I'm sure like your business and this course and everything was a challenge at first. And then, how would you, I guess, respond to that type of
That's
theory?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great analogy and the way you put it. And you're right. It is in those places of challenge, right? When everything's comfortable, there's nothing going on, right? We got our life handled. It feels good. It looks good, and we're getting the great response that we want. But it's in those areas where challenge in relationship or struggle at work, or reaching out for that thing, like with yourself and your podcast and being a host, and really creating your own network in that way, or starting whatever business, or going for that promotion or the thing that you're trying to do, right? It's when you're moving out of your comfort zone that imposter syndrome comes in. And so when I work with people, the thing that I really do is what we start with is identity.
Okay.
So a lot of people will start with, fear and worry and stress and anger, and get you to try and manage those things through breathing exercise or, affirmations or whatever. And they have certain levels of value. The problem is that, as I tell the people I work with, the habits you use to get there are the habits you're going to need to stay there. And for us, the ultimate goal is what we call life mastery, but really it's living out this freedom journey, I'll call it. It comes from a scripture that says, "He who the Son sets free is free indeed." Freedom isn't just in salvation; it's in lifestyle. And so I tell them my
Yeah.
freedom looks like something lived out, and it doesn't look like habits that I have to maintain so that I don't panic, so I don't worry, so I don't wake up at, like myself before implementing and having these strategies in the life mastery life that I have. Waking up at 3 in the morning because the finances aren't where they're supposed to be, and those what ifs that go through your head, and how we're going to get through this, and all those things that happen. a lot of it, a lot of the struggle that the people I work with start with identity, who you believe you are. I tell the people I work with, who you believe you are, you'll become. So if you
Yeah.
believe that, man, I barely make it and I can't figure this out or whatever, it stops you, it halts you, it slows you down from the life that you're created for. Like you talked about, where you're having doubt and you're having worry and having stress. But when you have a confidence in who you are, as I say with the people I work with, also, you're the answer to the circumstance you're walking into. You're not the question to be figured out. The problem is, in most of our lives, we think we're the question to be figured out. Can I do it? Can I succeed? Can I figure this out? Have I blown it? Did I make this mistake? When we understand who we're created to be, we'll understand the things that we're called into, whether it's in business or relationship. When we don't understand who we are living from identity, then the world has to make up the difference. And when stress happens or challenge happens, or those unforeseen circumstances come up, then all of a sudden you can kind of feel those emotions we talked about, that imposter syndrome of, man, I'm not ready for this. I'm not qualified for this. The truth is, you are qualified. You just don't know it because you're coming from a place of having your past tell you who you are versus having your identity.
Yeah, that's a great. I like how you said that. Because people do tend to live, in my experience, in the past. And if you've done
Yeah.
something in the past, you think that, there might not be something else in the future. I mean, I'm talking generally,
Yeah.
but trying not to be specific, but generally, yeah. Like if you live, if your family came from a certain background, or your dad did a certain job and you got into that certain job, you believe
Yeah.
that's who you are, and you're
That's a
kind of
great one.
saying no, it's who you want to be, or who you were designed to be by God, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's even bigger than that, because what you find out is, as I talk about, you get to live from who you're created to be, or what your past has told you are. And then certainly your economic status, your family, your background, and all of those things play into it. But it's really also who you believe you are from the things that you've walked through. So an example in my own life, when I was young, I struggled a little bit in school. And in fact, I remember a conversation between a teacher and my parents, with me standing there going from first to second grade, and the teacher saying that my parents should hold me back because I wasn't ready for the next grade level.
Oh,
And in that place, right, you don't realize the impact that it has on your identity. And so for that young man, the understanding that he had in that, me speaking of my own life, was, I'm not as smart as everybody else. I'm not as good as everybody else. You don't realize it. It's not a statement you say out loud, but it's an understanding you have on the inside. And
yeah.
in that place, all of a sudden, that starts to inform the rest of your life. And what I tell people is that your past informs your present and it creates your future. So for that young man, when he doesn't believe that he's smart enough, well, what happens when you struggle in math class, when you're going up? When I'm struggling with algebra and have to take it over for a second year because I failed at
Yeah.
the first year, right? What's the thought process that happens? What's the identity statements that come from that? And then getting into adulthood and dealing with finances in your family, and trying to, have all your money stretch long enough to pay off your bills and the things that you're trying to do. And what happens if you forget about a bill, or you have less money than the month, right? Like we have sometimes. What's the statements that are happening in your head? And so those are the things that are where your past and the experiences you've walked through are telling you who you are. But when you understand who you're created to be, like that young man that I was, you understand that that was a momentary time in life where maybe I didn't understand the things that I was walking into. Maybe I was not as mature as I needed to be, but that wasn't an identity statement. It was a moment in time. That same young man who was struggling in school at that time went to college and took calculus and was passing it, which is really, other than those people who are math majors, it's the highest level of math that you can go through. So it wasn't an intellectual understanding or an identity. It was just a moment in time in your life. When you understand the truth of who you are, you won't let your experiences lie to you anymore. Apart from that, you'll live from that place. And so, like you said, you won't go for those jobs because, well, I'm not smart enough, or, my family never does it. You won't go to college because, we don't do that. We just go find a job and earn a good, get a good job, earn a good living kind of thing. Or, you limit yourself by who you believe you are. And that's the work that we have. As I say
Yeah.
in a lot of the things that I write, my job and my passion is to equip Christians and others to unleash the hero in hiding in their business relationships in life, because I believe, like with myself, every person has that hero in hiding. It's the you were created to be that's dying to get out. You just don't know how to get there.
Yeah, I love the hero kind of journey type of atmosphere you've created when I was looking into your program there, because and we're seeing it a lot today, at least in my observation. Uh, the movies are all hero journeys that are,
Yeah,
you know, successful, right? Specifically the superhero movies, but even just everybody loves a good story where, you know, they start and they go through, you know, the person usually goes through some kind of battle or struggle, and then
right,
they come out of that, and then they, you know, there's a time of reflection, and then, you know, there's some courage that needs to happen. And then I'm sure you could finish that hero's journey story there. But um, when you said that, it really clicked to me with me, and I started looking at that stuff like, yeah, you know what? That's what everything in the world is kind of, you know, is kind of happening with all of us. I mean, you can even
right.
look at, you know, we don't have to get political, but you can look at, like, you know, President Trump and the things that has happened to him. If you actually look at the storyline, that's kind of a hero's journey, you know, whether you
Right.
agree with his political views or not. But I guess what would you say to that about the hero's journey? Is that kind of something similar to what, you know, you kind of portray in your courses and things, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a great narrative, and there's a commonality in that, right? Where everybody wants to be a hero, and at the end
Yeah.
of the day, what we invite them to do is to be the hero that you're created to be, not the one that you see. Meaning this, a lot of times we look at somebody else and want to imitate, whether it's, Dwayne Johnson, or political figure like Donald Trump, or somebody like Elon Musk, or
Yeah.
Bill Gates, or whatever the person is, right? You see that person of great success and great admiration, and a lot of times we look to try and imitate that person. And I find that a lot with the people I work with who are business people and trying to succeed. You think that success stops fear or imposter syndrome, it stops insecurity and those doubts that you have. Well, I found in my own life, when I was, created a business, ran a business, had a successful business that my wife and I sold for a mid six-figure profit. Come to find out, fear of failure never left me during that whole journey.
Mm,
Success doesn't stop you from dealing with those issues, from having those issues. It's that journey that we talked about of unpacking what your identity is, who you're created to be. And that kind of plays into the hero journey also, because I'm not trying to imitate somebody else of great success. They're not my barometer of what great looks like. What great
yeah.
looks like in my life is who I was created to be lived out. That's the hero that we're looking for, is not the imitation of someone else, but really the unleashing of the person, the man that I was created to be.
What would you say is the first step that somebody who may not be on that journey yet, and still in those negative emotions and still in those negative thought patterns, what would be the
Yeah.
first step a guy or a girl would take?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. The standard practice is to deal with the emotion first. And with the program we have, you actually deal with the emotion last, because the emotion is more of a management issue, less of an identity issue. But so what we do is we start with identity. Who are you created to be? It really comes with that paradigm shift of understanding I'm not my title, my role, my income, right? I'm not the things that other people have given me, or those kind of grades that I've given myself. How good are you because your income is this level, or your job is this, or what have you? So we start with an I am statement. And what it is who are you apart from your things, your titles, your roles, your income, all of that? Who's the person that you look at when you look in the mirror? And so I have them
Right.
create an I am statement. And what that does is that gives a separation of what I do from who I am. And in that place, you start to unpack some of those things, because a lot of times we look at identity as your accomplishments, and that's actually
Yeah.
something that's separate. It's not who you were created to be. Who I'm created to be is my identity, and that's obviously my identity completely. My accomplishments are just the outworking of the person I am. They don't tell me who I am, except that in the world, most of the times it does. So we
Yeah.
start with an I am statement to separate from that. Obviously I'm a person of faith. So I invite those who are people of faith to start that conversation with God and say, God, who did you make me to be? But even if you're not somebody who is a person of faith, I believe, like you said, that hero's journey and that person on the inside, I believe everybody feels innately there's more for me than the life I'm living. And the more
Yes.
isn't on the outside, it's on the inside first. When we desire more for our lives, you know this, Nathan, a lot of times we're reaching out. I need more income. I need a different job. I need a better, girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse, whatever. I need a better car, right? We're always looking outside to satisfy an inside need.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what I tell them is when you understand who you're created to be, all of those are great benefits, but they're not necessities. So we start with that. We start with an I am statement, who you created to be apart from your things. And we do a couple other things to try and flesh that out, including a celebration list and an accomplishment list. Celebration list is not a celebration of the things you've done, but of who you are. And I
Right.
started with this statement. What do you love about you? And it's not your outcomes, it's not your trophies, it's not your accomplishments. It's what do you love about you as a person, right? Like
Yeah.
with me, I love my sense of humor. I love that I laugh at things easily. I love the fact that I'm emotional, and I tell my wife, don't tell me sad stories because they'll affect me. And I don't want to have that negative emotion of taking on somebody else's issue when, I don't even want to name the circumstance. But so who are you? And what do you celebrate about that person? And then we do an accomplishment list as well. For the people I work with, I tell them do 20. For myself, I've done, I think, 130 at this point.
Wow.
When you get to a number that big, it starts to become things like I pay my bills on time, and I've owned 5 vehicles, and I have 5 dogs that we've owned in our lives, and I've been married for 33 years, right? They seem like normal things that you've done. But at the end of the day, if you can't celebrate the small things, you'll never get to the big ones. Anybody of
Yeah.
great accomplishment didn't get there because they waited to celebrate until they got to the mountaintop. They got the Olympic medal, they got the World Cup, they got the Super Bowl ring. They
Yeah.
celebrated and acknowledged along the way. And in that place, it didn't just inspire them, it energized them for that next level. So what I do is have them write an accomplishment list, top 20 things that you've done. It's because of being able to celebrate along the way. But the second part of it is it gives you the ability to see that you've got a track record of success. Like with you and what you're doing, and me with what I've done in business and life and everything else, right? A lot of times, one of the biggest hindrances is when we're getting into it, there's this fear of failure.
Oh yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
when you see that I've got a list of accomplishments in my life, whether it's small or big, I am consistently winning in my life. When you see that in the small things, right? Oh, yeah, I pay my bills on time. Well, not everybody does that. I show up for my job on a daily basis. Not everybody does that, right? So even those small things, it's not something everybody's done. We discount it in ourselves, and we rob ourselves of the joy of seeing that we are consistently winning in our life on a daily basis in the small things that we're doing. This next thing, whether it's opening a business or going for that promotion or asking that lady out and asking her on a date, that's just that next thing that you're working towards accomplishment. You've got a history of it. So of course you're going to be able to do it.
That's awesome. And this is something that so you believe in like affirmations, or is that kind of like what this is, like where you can just look at it every day and you can so it changes your mindset, or kind of what's the purpose behind that?
That's a great question, Nathan, and you're absolutely right. But there's a difference. So our emotions start with identity, or emotions, our affirmations start with identity. And what
Okay.
I mean is this: a lot of times, a lot of personal development courses, what they'll do is they'll just give you generic affirmations,
Yes.
right? So if I say I'm a millionaire enough, eventually I'll take the actions to make it happen, and that's just a lie.
Yes.
I'm sorry to be so strong, but
No, please.
in a lot of the personal development courses that I was in, I tried all of these things, and the problem was they never worked, and they didn't work because I knew I wasn't that person. The person they were telling me to remind myself I wasn't seeing in the mirror, and I wasn't feeling in my soul. But here's what we start with. We start with identity, because your identity is the start of your affirmations. When I have an accurate picture from an I am statement, a celebration list, an accomplishment of who I am, now all of a sudden that's the affirmation that I do while I'm trying to feed my mindset, if you will. We call it a 3-step transformational strategy, mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. And it starts with thoughts. And like I do, that we have, they say between 50, well, their numbers vary, but they say between 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Most of them
Wow.
subconscious, most of them automated, just
Yeah.
like, I mean, you and I right now.
Yeah.
We're talking, we're looking at each other, we're hearing things, we set up a podcast, we've set up lighting and all that kind of stuff. We didn't have to think our way through it. It was just automatic things. That's a lot of what the thoughts are, but there are thoughts that direct us. As I tell my students, who you think you are, you'll become. And the challenge is, if I can unpack my book a little bit, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, not by Default, we think we don't have any control of our thoughts. And so when we're doing mindset work, affirmation work, a lot of times you're just trying to beat up your thought life until it comes into line.
Yeah.
But when my affirmations align up with my identity, then it's really me just reminding myself who I am. Not trying to become somebody, not trying to create somebody, just me reminding myself, no, this is who I'm created to be. So when I'm walking into that challenge, no, I know who I am. And it is something that you repeat. It's something that you remind yourself of. I recommend for my students to do it first thing in the morning, because believe it or not, thoughts happen all during the day. And believe it or not, challenges come up during the day. But the more I repetitively remind myself who I am, the more that man or woman will show up in my daily life. When stress happens, when challenge happens, when opportunity happens, right?
Yep.
When relationship happens, when conversation happens, who you are looks like something in every area of your life. And so it is an affirmation, but it's an affirmation based on truth, on who you are, not on a dream of trying to be somebody else.
So it makes it more authentic to yourself, because when you're just saying, I am this or that, and that's not the current reality, that at least when I've been through that, and my mind, there's something in my mind saying like, that's not reality right now. But I love it how you're saying so, but if you do that with coming from who you are, it's true. It's a truth, So that's kind of like what you're saying.
And the other thing is, it's not a reality who I am right now, but it may not even be a reality of who you were created to be. What I mean is, we could give everybody an affirmation, I'm a millionaire. And everybody could say it, but not everybody will be it.
Yeah.
And it's not because there's a higher level of value with one person versus another, but here's the truth. The people I work with, I tell them, we're not going for success, we're going for fulfillment. Because I know people, and you do, that we can name off the top of our head who are highly successful, and amazingly dysfunctional in other areas of their life.
Absolutely.
And another area is a disaster. Well, the reason is that success doesn't equal fulfillment. It doesn't bring out identity or create who I am or give me the great joy in life that I deserve. It's just being able to work at something long enough, hard enough, more than anyone else until you succeed. The Kobe Bryant effect, right?
Yeah.
Practicing before anybody, after everybody, more consistently than everybody, till you're better than everybody. There's no change or no fulfillment or no joy in that. It's just a repetitive action until you get a reaction. And so it's not doing successful things, it's doing fulfillment. And fulfillment is me living out who I'm created to be in every area of life, which is why instead of finding success in an area and then harming yourself, taking your own life or whatever, because life still doesn't have any meaning. I thought this would overcome it. Just like with me in business, I thought success in business would overcome fear. It's giving you affirmations that are in alignment with who you are, because that's the ultimate goal. That goal of freedom or life mastery that we talked about is that place of knowing from the inside out that this is exactly the life I was created for. So it doesn't have a dollar value attached or a possession attached to it, or a title attached to it. It's just knowing that this is exactly who I am. And what you and I know, Nathan, is I wouldn't trade that for all of the money, because you could have $1 million and be miserable, or you could live from this place of, man, this is exactly me lived out. That is such great satisfaction that nothing else can compare. That's the goal that we're shooting for.
Mark, that's brilliant. I agree 100%. So how would you say, if someone was struggling with feeling of inadequacy, which is pretty common, we see it all around us, what would be a good way to start overcoming that? I think we kind of talked a little bit about it, but maybe what's a specific or detailed way that they could just begin to try to get out of that cycle that we all see ourselves in?
Yeah. So for us, it's in 3 stages and 3 modules within Life Mastery. And this is also detailed in my book, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design. It starts with identity. We've talked about those things there. If you don't start with that, you're really just creating habits that you have to manage. And our goal isn't change, it's transformation. And transformation doesn't come from managing habits or having affirmations that you have to do the rest of your life, but having those affirmations and those tools to unleash you. There's a difference between unleashing you and pretending to be you. And so it starts with identity. And the second is the transformational strategies, the 3-step transformational strategy, mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. Mastering your thoughts is repeating those things that you've already written down, the affirmations about who you are. The mastering your words is me speaking out those things, right? As I tell the people I work with, who you think you are, you'll become. And if your thoughts don't align with who you're created to be, then they're lying to you. Well, the secondary understanding of that is, so are my words. Your words will do 2 things. They'll affirm what you already believe about yourself on the inside, and they'll give instructions for you to live out. So when I tell myself I'm a failure, or I'm foolish, I'm dumb, I'm not good enough, or whatever, it's confirming what I've already understood about myself on the inside, your thoughts, and it's giving myself instructions on to prove it, to live it out. And then actions are, who does that hero that's unleashed, what does that person look like lived out? So it's not just about your thoughts. It's just not just about saying the right things. It's about doing things that are in alignment with who you're created to be. So I don't shrink away from challenge. I know that I'm the answer to every circumstance that I'm walking into. I don't stop from doing those big things. I know that I'm created for greater things than what I'm currently doing, and I'll reach out to them until I find the ones that align with who I am. So those are 2 steps in there. And then that person that's really struggling with it, we deal with the next module for us is the 4 pillars of life mastery. And I know we don't have time to go over all of it, but those 4 pillars are identity, experience, meaning, and emotion. Identity, experience, meaning, and emotion. You're either living from your identity or you're living from your experiences. You're never living from both.
That's true.
So I'm living from what my past, my pains, and the lies I believed have told me I am, or I'm living from who I'm created to be. And the challenge with the experience is, all experience happens to all people. We have grief, we have joy, we have great times, we have horrible times and circumstances that we walk through. The difference in people that succeed and grow and get into the fullness of the life that they're created for isn't the experience they've walked through, it's the meaning they take from it. And what most people think is it's the meaning of the experience. So even bad experiences, I'm going to say that they're good so that I don't burden myself with being a victim, but that's not the truth of the matter. The truth isn't the meaning I give the experience, but the meaning is the meaning that I give myself from the experience. It's an identity statement, which is why people who go through challenging circumstances and are, taking advantage of or whatever, it's a victim statement that I put on myself saying I'm a victim, I'm somebody who deserves it, I'm somebody that's less than, that perpetuates it in your life. If a person says this is a horrible thing that I walked through, but this isn't going to define me, that's a person that can live in a place of empowerment and being able to live it out. It's not the meaning of the experience in which you walk through. It's what does the experience say about you? And so for that person who's struggling with insecurity or fear or worry or whatever it is, it really comes down to saying, where did you first hear that? Where did you first feel that identity statement about yourself? Like that young man that I unpacked a while ago, it was myself as a person going from 1st to 2nd grade who thought he wasn't smarter than everybody else. The question we have that will help people unpack that is, okay, you have that feeling of worthlessness or not being valued or not being smart or whatever the thing is, right? When's the first time you felt that? Well, I felt that in that conversation between 1st and 2nd grade. What's the lie you believed? The lie I believed was I wasn't as good as everybody else. What's the truth that you know? As an adult looking back, as a person working in my life mastery journey, mastering my thoughts, words, and actions, living for my identity, what does that person understand about that? Well, that was a moment that I was walking through. That was a current developmental stage. That wasn't a statement of my intellect and my ability from that point forward. That was just a young boy who was doing his best. And at that point, his best wasn't at the level of other people, but it certainly became that later on. In that place of understanding truth, now all of a sudden, those lies don't have a hold on you anymore. Those belief systems all start to dissolve because now I know the truth about that person. So I won't live from that place any longer. So for those people, it really is understanding, hey, When did you feel it? What's the lie you believe? What's the truth that you know? There's a lot of strategy and tools that we use within it, but very
Sure.
quickly, that's how you do it. And so, yeah, there's so much more that we could go over now, but it really starts with that place of where did I believe that lie, and what's the truth about who I am that's different than that lie that I believed. When you start to understand that, Nathan, it changes your whole life. Those are the
Wow.
only times where I don't have to manage, right? I don't have to
Yes.
have mantras and affirmations tell me, no, I'm good enough, I'm good enough, I'm good enough, because now I'm not bound to a lie and a false identity. I'm living from who I am. I fully understand who I am. So I don't actually have to use affirmations anymore because that guy's showing up. I don't have to remind myself who I am when I'm actually showing up as that person, that man or that woman that we're talking about. And that's where transformation happens, where you're not having to build yourself up, you're not having to remind yourself, you actually just get to live it. And what I tell people just really quickly in the end is this, Nathan, I say, living from life mastery is the easiest thing you can do. And going through that scenario and being that person at the end with that outcome, because I'm not having to measure up, I'm not having to build myself up, I'm not having to remind myself, I just get to live. And that is the most amazing life possible. Living apart from life mastery is the hardest thing, because then I have to build myself up. I have to remind myself. I have to pretend I am, even when I don't believe it.
So you're helping people build that foundation that's unrockable by
Yeah.
tuning into their authentic self.
Yeah.
That's
And it's a
that's
journey,
amazing.
Nathan. There's moments in the journey, but it's a journey. There's no magic formula that all of a sudden now I don't have to do anything and I don't, struggle doesn't happen, challenge doesn't happen. That's not the truth for anyone.
Yeah.
But what it is a place of freedom where I just get to be me, and what I am is not just good enough. It's exactly what's needed.
Wow. So if somebody was wanted to get involved in your program or one of your courses, how would they get involved with that?
I try to be a one-stop shop, Nathan. And so you can reach out to me on my website, which is freedom-4-life.net.
Okay.
Freedom-4-life.net. That life mastery course that we've talked about is out there. And the book is as well. You can get my book, Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, not by default there. You can get my book on Amazon, but I would say look me up under author Mark W. Collins. I put the W in there because I looked up authors, and Mark Collins is actually a pretty common name.
Yeah.
So if you want the shortest path to actually finding my book versus the other 100 books that are similar, you can go to my website. And there's also actually Nathan, a discovery tool on my website.
Okay.
It's a free tool. It's a quick worksheet, and you basically go through 40 questions. You score it, get your total at the end, and what it'll tell you is where you're at in your life mastery journey and what's the next step you can take in that journey. So totally free tool, just kind of a quick diagnostic to say, hey, where am I at? And what can I do to be in more of a life mastery journey, less life by default, more life by design.
Nice. And what was that website again, Mark?
Freedom-4-life.net.
Okay. Freedom dash four
Or
dash like the number four.
life. No, it's actually the word.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I asked that.
Yeah, you're not the first person who's asked that, so it makes me kind of try and rethink what I should be calling my corporation. But yeah, it's freedom-4 life.net.
Okay. Great. We head over there. Use the free tool. They can sign up for your courses there as well or get your book.
Absolutely. I'd love to have them be a part of it.
Awesome, Mark. Well, I appreciate you coming on the program. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we close up here?
Yeah, the one thing I try and tell people, so I studied probably 7 or 8 personal development courses, read 15, 20 books, because again, I wanted to have the person on the outside that I believed I was on the inside. I didn't find them through there, so I had to create my own course that didn't bring change but brought transformation. That's life mastery. But the one thing I did along the way was I never gave up on myself. Even though I wasn't
Nice.
finding it and I went through all of my journey, I still was willing to bet on myself one more time, believing that I was going to be able to find the tool or strategies or whatever to bring that young man out that I desired to be. So for anybody who's listening or watching this, anybody that's in your community, Nathan, the one thing I would tell them is that's the one thing you need to get right. in order to find that transformation is being able to bet on yourself one more time, right? Whether you've been through one thing, 10 things, 200 things,
Yeah.
who knows that that next one isn't the one that's going to bring that transformation. Obviously,
Yeah.
you don't have to create it because I believe life mastery will get you there, but the best course, the best transformation I can provide means nothing if you're not willing to bet on yourself one more time. But if you do that singular thing, I believe that you're going to have the life that you believe that you are supposed to have, the life that you're created for, that person that you're created to be actually show up in every area of your life. But it takes just one thing. Bet on yourself just one more time.
Absolutely. Mark, that's amazing. This has been a really amazing time. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story and your information and some of the keys to how to become who you were made to be. So I really appreciate you, and I'm gonna check out your site. So,
I appreciate it, Nathan, and thanks for having the conversation with me. It's been a great time.
great. Yep, same to you. Take care, man. Bye-bye. And for everybody else, this has been another episode of All Aware, and you are all aware. Night. Thanks, Mark.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to like, subscribe on YouTube, Rumble, and anywhere that you watch podcasts so that we can gain a bigger audience and you can help us spread this word to all that need to hear it. And don't be afraid to ask questions or leave comments. We do respond to the questions and comments that you leave. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Stay up to date on episodes by visiting us online at allawarepodcast.com.